Any double-decker pussies?
Okay, double pussies and...
Namaste, sentient beings, citizen of Gotham. It is Wednesday, October 7th, 2015. Thanks for stopping by and tuning in. I do appreciate it. Hope all of you are doing well. ANP News, Jade Helm military assets position. Will resistors and red listers be the first targets when the event goes live? Well, that's a good point by Susan Dolkos, who writes this article. Take everything with a grain of salt, but most people think Jade Helm has ended. It has not ended. It started July 15th. It was supposed to end on September 15th, which it didn't. It is still being put forth in the sense of it is in the background. It's a machine that is still running, and it will be put into effect when the right time is made. So it's not like it didn't happen. A lot of people were preaching that July 15th, that martial law was going to be implemented in, 20 or 30 or 40 of the posts that I've done on Jade Helm. I kept reiterating that was not my feeling, that this is being put into play, and position is a better term, so that when they do have a event that happens, be it tsunamis followed by obviously earthquakes. Tsunamis are much more devastating, and then you have people living in squalor, just like look what happened in the flooding in New Orleans. New Orleans was basically left to survive on its own, and the only thing that the government was concerned with was getting guns out of the hands of people, because with guns you can hunt, you can stay alive, you can protect yourself, so forth and so on. And that was their main reasoning behind doing anything in regards to quote-unquote helping people, was to relieve people of their firearms. Not to mention that was a man-made event, that flooding, so forth and so on. But anyway, getting back to earthquakes, when you have these man-made earthquakes, usually tsunamis follow, and the tsunamis do a lot more devastation than the earthquakes themselves. There's obviously a lot of fires that go on. You have a lot of disease that can come in afterwards. You have people living, like I said, in squalor, which is in bad positions, not being able to get their hands on food and clean water. That's why disease comes in. Plus, they can always implement a super or uber virus as well. So that's what I've been preaching, so forth and so on. Just my opinion. Don't have to agree with it. Not trying to convince anyone of it. I'm just talking through my own discernment. So, having said all that, article starts, we have maintained that Jade Helm 15 was never about declaring martial law during the supposed exercise. It was about pre-positioning military assets and gathering information to prepare for the upcoming civil unrest. So I assume that's Susan Dolkos talking. I agree with her on that. It's like a chessboard. They have their pawns and everything, rooks and knights in place, and eventually they will go checkmate. But they need a catalyst for that, which will be probably a natural made disaster, meaning man-made, unless they go the dirty bomb route or nuclear route and blame it on ISIS or homegrown terrorists, something to that effect. Then martial law will come into effect. They've been practicing it. That's why these psyops are so prevalent, and telling people to get used to having their their property searched, as well as their person, meaning their body, their physiological body being searched, whatever property they're carrying being searched. When we had all these psyops of people on the loose and, all these people breaking out of prisons and running around like madmen out into the country, they were going house to house, basically almost kicking the doors in, searching the entire house at gunpoint, pointing guns at families, at children, dogs were getting shot, some people got shot, etc., etc., etc. So all of that is conditioning to get the populace used to a militarized state, which will become federalized once they implement martial law, which will be under the control of the United States military, which is actually, a lot of it is actually controlled by the UN as well. Before the Jade Helm 15 JH-15, which is what also I deem it as, exercises went live on July 15, 2015. All News Pipeline was getting videos, images, reports almost on a daily basis of military assets being moved across the nation, not only for Jade Helm 15, but for other supposed exercises and drills. Since the official date of Jade Helm ending of September 15, 2015, we only have been able to find a few reports, and we've had to utilize a search engine using a time frame of 1 month to hunt them down. Are those just photo ops to make it appear that the military assets are returning to their point of origin? Tens of thousands of assets were captured, being moved on camera, photos, and documented. Yet we only see a small, minuscule amount of those being returned. Is it a coincidence that since the alleged end of Jade Helm 15, we have seen Barack Obama appear before world leaders talking about the international rule of law. It is also a coincidence that we are seeing calls for the MSM to declare National Rifle Association, NRA, a terrorist organization. It also a coincidence, or is it also a coincidence that Barack Obama is now talking about gun control via executive action, to which some law enforcement officials are stating is really gun confiscation? Again, that's why we have all these psyops with supposedly all these people being shot and killed, and we just had one where 20 or 30 people were killed and 10 or 15 were injured. They keep changing numbers. First it's, it doesn't matter. They started at like 8 or 9 and now it's up to like 30 some people were injured and 20 people got shot. It's always the same thing. These are all psyops. These are all controlled events, exercises, sometimes having the unbeknownst, or to the populace that's unbeknownst to them is a better way to say it. I said that backwards, excuse me. Meaning they'll have certain people partake in the event who are unbeknownst to them that it's an actual exercise, and they play it off like it's a real event and people believe in that. So there's a believability to some people that are recounting it, but all these people that are on show after show after show, meaning news show, spewing mendacities, pushing the political propaganda ahead, arguing that this happened and many people died and I saw, and then you get these shills who come on people's channels and say, I know someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone, and it was real. You're an idiot. Those are just shills. It is not happening. People who lose members of their family do not go on every freaking newscast. Newscasts are nothing but propaganda. That's all they are. It's been that way for 4 or 5 or 6 decades. It's just the last decade or two, and more like the last decade, people are starting to realize that. I used to watch news when I was a kid. I thought they were strange. I used to call the newscasters aliens. I thought they were weird. Now I've realized that most of them are actually reptilian. But anyway, that's a whole nother argument. Point being is, even as a kid, as stupid as I am, I started to say there's something off with this news, all these stories. And when you start listening to these stories and you start discerning them through research and the many wonderful videos that are on YouTube by hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are taking their time out to put these videos forward to try, I guess, to enlighten or awaken or get other people to see what's going on, you realize it's the same stories over and over again. So we just had that major psyop just happen the other day. It's about gun confiscation. It's about circumventing your civil liberties. It's about usurping the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. It's about a police state. It's about a federalized police force. It's about a new world order, a one world order, one world religion. It's all the same stuff, and they're pushing forth, and it's coming at a fever pitch as of late. Is it also coincidence that we have seen recent announcement of more refugees to be allowed within American borders, many of which, as seen from Europe, are of the military age and gender, perhaps capable of operating military assets positioned during Jade Helm 15, that aren't returning to their points of origin? Would we really like a professional statistician to tell us the odds of all this happening within the last month, specifically after the Jade Helm 15 exercises, which many believe and still believe was to prepare for massive civil unrest within the United States borders via a natural disaster which will be man-made, or a PSYOP, potential false flag, which is a provocation of war. PSYOPs, hoaxes, and false flags are 3 different things, although hoaxes and PSYOPs are very similar. I've done videos on that. I would just say Google it and you could read about the differences of those. A lot of people say these things are, oh, they're all false flags. False flag is not what's going on. They are PSYOPs and hoaxes. As articles and comments across the internet show, many believe that Obama is simply taking common sense gun control, and that's his new term. I even did a video on that, a satire video on him, talking about common sense, which is an insult to everyone, and they're not common sense laws because there are enough laws on the books. And he blatantly lied, saying that, that we have all these gun laws and we need more gun laws because that'll help. It's not true. All the countries actually, and states that have the least amount of gun laws have the least amount of murder and crime with guns. All the states which are against guns that have the most gun laws, specifically, I could argue New York, being that I'm in Gotham, that have all these superfluous laws about guns, have the highest crime rates and have the highest murder per capita. And the reason for that is because these gun laws do not affect criminals. The gun laws only affect law-abiding, tax-paying citizens. That's something the NRA, and I'm not trying to support them. I don't think they're as bad as people make them out to be, but I don't care about their organization. The point I'm making, excuse me, is that these gun laws only affect law-abiding citizens who abide by them. They don't affect a criminal who goes and buys a gun on the streets that's defaced, that is not serialized, They're buying it illegally. It's defaced, which is illegal. They're using it in a commission of crime. They're brandishing it in a commission of crime. They're menacing with it. And if they shoot and murder someone, then they're murdering someone or attempted to murder someone. And it's another offense when you have it loaded as well. So they break like 7, 8 different laws, which most of them are never convicted of. Why? Because crimes make money. Jails are one of the biggest money makers besides war, besides sex, besides drugs. Then you can go into big pharma, and also schools make tons of money as well. So this common sense is a smack in the face to people and trying to demonize people that argue against more gun laws, because there's already enough of them and they don't need any more gun laws. What they need to do is uphold the laws that are already on the book. So when someone commits a crime with a gun and they break 7 or 8, 9 laws, most of those are felonies, and most of those carry 7 to 10 year sentences. So even if they don't murder someone, if they commit 7 crimes and all of them are 7-year felonies, that's 49 years your ass is sitting in jail, period. And if you murdered someone, then it's your life. So whatever. But as Stephen Stanford reminded us recently, the worst of the genocide in history all came subsequent to licensing, permits, and registration, which is talking about law-abiding citizens who have to go through licensings and have to purchase permits and have to usually pay every other year a couple $100 just to keep their license, and register every gun they have to register when they buy ammo. When you go and buy ammo, the the federal firearm license dealer, the FFL dealer who sells you the bullets, writes it down that he sold it to you, takes all your information. Everything is data-based. And they do that purposely, not because they are so worried about gun owners killing people. They want a database, everyone, so they know when they inflict martial law or implement martial law, they know exactly who has guns, what type of guns they have, what calibers they have, how much ammo approximately they might have. Do they have shotguns? Do they have rifles? Is it all just pistols? Are they holding revolvers? Are they holding semi-automatics, etc.? It's all databasing, and people that don't know anything about guns argue rather ignorantly against guns when they know nothing about it. Nevertheless, as this chart shows, what followed those gun laws were ban on possession laws, then confiscation laws. So this is our little chart you can look at. I'm not going to spend time talking about it. Targets gun owners already in databases, which is what I was just talking about. Remember in December of 2012 when the journal News sparked outrage after publishing the names and addresses of gun permit holders? If not, read about it at CNN or ABC News to catch up. That's something disgusting, but they did that purposely to demonize people, etc., etc. What that showed conclusively is that databasing exists already with the name and location of all gun permit holders across America, something I just argued for 25 minutes as I rambled on. Not only do the databases exist, but we have seen a push for new technology of GPS guns themselves, as well as a reminder from February 2015 ANP article that showed the government has the technology and has, in fact, GPS tagged homes for the purpose of obtaining the coordinates for every residence in the nation, For those who doubt the technology exists, yet to track guns as well as where the gun is, when the gun is fired, how many rounds are fired, which way the firearm is pointing, and even if drawn from the holster, doubt no more. Will gun owners be among the first targets? Decades ago, Stephen Quayle's first revealed the knowledge of target lists, specifically the red list, those that would not simply comply with martial law, gun confiscation, or takeover of America by tyranny, which is oppression and totalitarian state, which is really better known as fascism. Those that prepare, survivalists, gun owners, veterans, constitutionalists, which is a funny term, because they deem it so bad and we really shouldn't be considered anything. We're supposed to be a republic, which is for the people, of the people, and by the people, representing everybody, not Democrats and Republicans. But anyway, those prepared to defend themselves, their families, and their fellow citizens if need be, is there really any doubt who would be the first on the red list? Of course, it's going to be people who are considered constitutionalists, who believe in the Bill of Rights, who believe in the Constitution. To a government bent on tyranny, which is what our government is, and all governments are actually, or virtually all governments are bent on tyranny because they are usually run by elitists, satanic elitists, whatever you want to call them, hybrid Illuminati, etc., etc., etc. People with money, the small 1 to 2 or 3% in this world that actually control and dominate the world. I say they're the hybrid Illuminati who are subordinate to draconians, but nevertheless, I won't digress. The most dangerous person to those plans would be those willing to fight against it and armed to do so. That's why they're vilifying all veterans, returning veterans, and not giving them, letting them have their guns if they have PTSD, and they get marijuana for that to help them with that, which is a great cult because cannabis is a healer. I'm not going to go into it. It's not this gateway drug as they've professed it to be. A lot of people are actually pulling their heads out of the rectum and realizing that was just a bunch of bullshit. But they're demonizing veterans, taking their guns away because veterans are allowed to have weapons because they served, and they're taking them away. That way you can't have a militia. When you're training people which to become an assassin, which you are in the military, it's not putting anyone down, but you're trained how to murder people and kill people. They train you to be a machine with no feelings and kill. So you're learning how to be an assassin. So if you come back to the States, come back home, so to speak, and your government's trying to oppress you, most veterans would be, hell no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to form a militia with my brothers and sisters, the civilians who I swore to protect, and why I went over to another country and almost died or got severely hurt or suffering from to this day for. I'm going to side with them and help protect the people. They don't want that because those people know how to fight. Everyone who has guns can think they're phenomenal in shooting. Unless you've been in a lot of firefights, you don't know what you're talking about. You could shoot at a piece of paper all you want. That's great. Not saying it's not helpful, but unless you're in real gunfights, firefights, which is what a firefight is, especially in the military where you're actually shooting automatic weapons and you're on a predator mode every second of your life for the time you're out there, that's a different mentality that most people will never know, and that's a good thing. But when you've been trained that way and you've been in real firefights, you can actually train other people in firefights. Not like people who shoot papers. You can practice that all you want and do your little practicing running around and all that. But it's like anything. People who talk about being great fighters, for example, the only way you become a great street fighter is to street fight a lot. And that's how you become a great street fighter. Your experience gets you better at something. Everyone knows that. Think about brushing your teeth. When you first started, you couldn't brush your teeth. For anything, it took you 20 minutes. Now you can brush your teeth in 1 minute and you don't have to think about it, right? So anything with practice, you get better at. Where there be mass civil unrest? I'm butchering this. Will there be mass civil unrest? There are a number of events converging right now. Talk of gun confiscation, talk of secret meetings planning to reset the entire system. We have a national debt so large, we never have a hope of paying it off. We have the dollar as the world reserve currency that has reached the average amount of years any currency holds that status. Multiple issues of debt cards and EBT card system glitches. The recent signing of the TPP. Race wars being instigated. Class wars being pushed. Cops being threatened by protest groups, just to name a few. Any one of the or a combination of the aforementioned issues can tip the scales and lead to civil unrest. Personally, I don't think it is a matter of it, but when it happens. Enemies of the state. Over the last years, we have seen Christians, preppers, survivalists, constitutionalists, sovereign citizens, and more labeled by the Obama administration as extremists or more dangerous than terror groups. That's because they deem all people who are constitutionalists or Americans, so to speak, civilians, as terrorists. They don't view other people as it anymore. They probably never did. The whole problem with the supposed fight on terror was actually to convince people that terrorists were out there, and then through that they were able to change it and make every civilian a terrorist, because if you're not complying with what the government wants, they deem you as a terrorist. We have seen attacks against those that live off the grid because they consider those terrorists too. What the Obama administration is doing is setting the stage to be able to name enemies of the state, thereby putting a target on the back of every person who could be considered our last line of defense against a tyrannical government. Recently, we had a source tell us that the motto for Jade Helm 15 of mastering the human domain simply means destroy all resistors and red listers, and that every neighborhood in America using algorithms had been assigned teams based on the number of guns owned to wipe out pre-designated enemies of the state. Also, Jade Helm 15 is really about J2 AI, which is a artificial intelligence. It's a consciousness, which is databasing and meta tagging everything. It also does scenarios of war as well as holograms as well, and that is supposed to supersede the human factor in wars and military. And that's supposed to go online in, I think, September, October of 2017. It was even mentioned in the latest Terminator movie. I think it's 2017 October. September, October, one of those months. Just watch that movie and you'll find out. They're talking about Skynet, which is what J2 AI will be. Probably by the time it goes live, it'll be J3. Because J2 means there's been a J1. Yes, you haven't figured that out. The bottom line here is the military assets are positioned thanks to Jade Helm 15. Targets, aka resistors and red listers, have been identified as to who will be named enemies of the state, and all they are waiting for is the event that caused massive civil unrest, like I was talking about, the earthquakes, tsunamis, dirty bomb, power station being killed, EMP attack, etc. Once it happens, things are going to move fast, and we can all expect phone and internet outages so people cannot share what is happening in their neighborhood and town. That's why I would suggest trying to right now buy as many candles as you can, buy as many batteries, several flashlights, stock up on water for toilets and for, urination, defecation, water to drink. Distilled water is good. If you don't know what distilled water is, just water that is boiled. You can start doing that yourself, but people should be stocking up on water, flashlights, batteries, matches, a lot of candles. I guess toilet paper would be smart as well, because when they shut down electricity, toilets don't work, so you need water to help flush them. You can need toilet paper for obvious reasons. You can need candles and flashlights you're not going to be able to see. The questions then become, what will be the trigger that sets events in motion, and when will it all go down? Well, I just mentioned the types of events they will use. In the video below, Sheriff David Clark states clearly that it isn't about gun control, it's about gun confiscation. So if you want to watch the video, you can. These guys, especially this guy, Reptile, I know that doesn't sound realistic to you guys. That's great. Bottom line is, very least, this guy's a Freemason. I would argue reptilian. A lot of these people that are in positions of power that we think are human are not. You can watch other videos where I talk about that. I will be making more videos upcoming about this whole species that has been ruling the earth. But anyway, kind of disturbing news, but it's good to share. Take everything with a grain of salt. But again, this Jade Helm 15 is always in the back burner until they use it. Again, they will implement it once something happens, a natural disaster, man-made event, all of which I've mentioned several times. Then it will be put forth completely, and then you will have martial law, then you'll have the UN come in. That's why they keep pushing these psyops, to keep getting people used to it, and also to try and get as many guns out of people's hands before they implement it, because it's going to be harder. Not that they still can't overcome people that have weapons, but it'll be less chance of people on their side not dying. They're not concerned with us. They're worried about their own brethren, so they're not concerning us. It's just what's best for them. Thanks for stopping by and tuning in. Be well, stay balanced. Namaste.